Thank you, Matt. Yes, thank you. Great to be here. Mhm. Yeah, so it was kind of funny because Ray and I always had gardens. Like it was like a hobby, So every summer we would have this little patch of our lawn where we would grow some vegetables and just eat them. By the end of summer, it was overgrown and we would just let the fruit hang and see you next year. And there was a time when I realized during my realizing what big pharma was up to, it made me realize there's big food, big ag. And I thought, hmm, if big pharma is doing this, what's happening to our food supply? So that caused us to say, what can we do on our own? Um, I could not raise animals because I they become my pets. So we buy from local farms, but for the produce, our vegetables, not so much fruit yet, some fruit, apple trees we have, but for the most part, all our veggies that we would eat with dinner, potatoes, carrots, beets, turnips, peas, beans, tomatoes that I make sauce and diced tomatoes and all sorts of stuff with. Anything you can think. I mean, Swiss chard, zucchini, butternut squash. We try all different things, cucumbers, everything. I make pickles. I do jars of pickles. And so it turned into, for us, we looked at our little garden, and our first year, we actually turned it into like something we wanted to try to harvest and jar and can and freeze and everything was probably 2022. We started to actually say, okay, let's try this. And then we realized we didn't have enough space. There wasn't enough, yield, enough harvest, and we decided let's go big. So we did. So now go big or go home. Exactly. So now we have greenhouses. We have three greenhouses. We have another greenhouse that's not covered yet, and one that's going to be built where we have everything growing inside, varieties of potatoes, varieties of tomatoes, peas, eggplant, beans, you name it, it's like pretty much we have it. And so now we're going to put it into, have more space outside. We have about 7 or 8 like gardens in the ground now, and we are every day. It's there's maintenance. We go out and we do everything organically and naturally. So we find ways to keep bugs away, and it's a natural way, and it's not gonna leach anything into our food supply. We make our own compost. So we start our own seeds, and we save seeds from year to year and use those. So the more it's away from purchasing, which again, what are you getting when you buy something? We know it because we're doing it all ourselves. And what I've learned in this too, Matt, is it started as because we were, like you said, the recession and prices going up, and also, what's really in our food supply. But I got chills as I say this. It's turned into a connection to how we were designed and created, to actually put in the labor, but the labor's for yourself. The labor is for, your own home, your own family. And it's a reward to see the process and to actually care about your food, like to actually go into the greenhouses and be proud. And there's an energy. You walk in and everything's green and growing, and it feels alive. And at the end of the season, it's a bummer, but it comes again. You're gonna go there again and do it again. And so I always joke and say, like, because I now I think of food as like the foundation of our health. Where's the food coming from? How is it being prepared? How is it being stored? And, what's it grown in? I mean, all the details of it. And that's why I joke about going from pharmacist to pharmacist, because I used to just dispense medication all the time. And now I feel like my heart's desire is to dispense knowledge on how to live off the land and gain what you can, nutrient wise from the food because everything, we're going to the grocery store and getting food that's not grown in our area. Like if you go to a farmer's market, that helps. People who cannot grow food, go to your farmer's market because it's local. Not only is it about local farms and local business, but the food itself is grown in the soil, in the atmosphere of local. When you're getting stuff from somewhere else, it's like foreign almost to your body. You're really not getting the nutrients that your body needs. I mean, it's there's just so many details to it, but that's a little bit on our journey. And I will say our name, Liberty Hill Farm, I'll share this. So when yeah. So we I don't know, I think it was probably about 2018. I've always wanted to do our own maple syrup. And so, Ray heard me bugging him for years. And so finally he said, okay, this year we're gonna do it. And so he went out and got a little wood stove. And I mean, really, it's not a big production. It's just enough for us to have some and maybe give some to like a few people. So in 2018, we started to make our own maple syrup. And then we were out at some events and we went to, in this time frame, we were at a place called Liberty Ridge Farm. We were at a church called Liberty Fellowship. And we looked at each other and said, there's a lot of liberty, and we liked the idea because we're true-hearted patriots. We love our country. We love what our country was founded on. And so we said, well, heck, why not Liberty Hill? And we call it the Hill because from being here, we live on a hill. So ours turned it, so we decided Liberty Hill Farm. And it started out as Liberty Hill Maple, which wasn't even like we were never selling it because we didn't make enough. But we just kind of joked around when we would give a jar to like one of my sisters or to my mom. It'd be like, hey, Liberty Hill Maple Farm. And then it kind of stuck through the years, and we decided to name our entire farm Liberty Hill Farm. For eggs. Yep. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I have definitely very healthy birds. And actually, when we get our chicks, we always check and make sure they're not vaccinated. We are born with a wonderful immune system that actually works pretty well. And if we treat our bodies right with food, with getting outdoors, getting in nature, with our positive thinking, positive self-talk. Health is not just one piece, which again, I was taught in college that health was just the body. And I was taught in college that the body is broken and we need to fix it. Well, it's actually the other way around, is that the body's out of balance and not in alignment. And the alignment is mind, body, and spirit. So what we think, what we are putting our body through or our body into our body, either way. And then also a connection to God, however that is for people, because everybody has their own little thing. It could be music, it could be walking in nature, it could be hanging out with family and friends. Everyone has their own thing that lifts their spirits, and that's really important too. So health is not just one thing. And so I try to even bring that and incorporate that with my plants and even with my chickens because everything is connected. And so when I go out, I talk to the plants, and there have been times I actually remember last year we were taking our beans out of the containers and putting them into the dirt. And as I was taking mine out, it hit and it broke. And my heart sank because I was like, oh, you poor little thing. And of course, I'm looking at it like we just spent all this time growing you and now I just broke you. So I talked to the plant. I was like, I'm really sorry. So I'm hoping you're gonna make it. I put it in the dirt. I gave it water. And in a few days, that thing was looking great. And I talked to it every day. I said, you're doing great. You're coming around. And I really just believe that being positive and having a good, frequency, a good energy that you're bringing into everything around you helps. And so I also do that with my chickens. I call them when I'm up there. I'm like, hey there, girlfriends. And they're blah, 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 and they come out. And even today, so today we have baby chicks. We just got four babies. They're probably 6 weeks or so old. And I brought them outside and we put up our dog Sam's like little kennel we would use for him camping. And so right out there for them. And so I put them in there. And one of our chickens, her name's April, she's a little daredevil. And so she's down on the ground, and I'm standing outside of the cage of the kennel thing. She's looking up, and she just jumped and flew up and landed on my shoulder and was trying to climb to the top of my head. So I just love it because these chickens all have personalities and they get really attached and they look forward to seeing you. And again, I really think it's having a good attitude, walking in there and being positive. And they've been healthy. That I've had, we did lose two from our first, yeah. The first one, it was our first time with chickens and we didn't know what was going on. And sometimes when they're laying, they get not egg bound, but like they'll get a little uncomfortable. And we thought maybe she had food stuck and it was terrible. So we didn't do right by her because we were brand new chicken farmers, so we didn't know. And the second one night, or one morning when I went to open up, she was just there on the roost and was gone. So I don't know if she hit her head or someone pecked her too hard because they do get pretty feisty. But no one's ever been sick. They've all been very healthy, and they do look plump because they eat very well because we make sure we yeah. And that's the offset. Ray's always teasing me. He's like, these are very expensive eggs. They're more than when they're at their highest price because the food to feed them. Yeah. So but it's a connection. It's a connection to the animals and to that way of life that's kind of been lost through the years. Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And it is, yeah, when you speak to them too, I mean, obviously there is a positive energy, but also carbon dioxide. So they need the carbon where then they give us the oxygen. So when I do go in there and when they're little and I'm like, breathing on all my little seedlings and saying, here's some life force for you guys. And yeah, so definitely, yeah, it works, everything works together and it's how it was created. And like I said, supermarkets were only introduced in the 1940s. If you really think about that, what were our ancestors? It's not that old, right? And so our ancestors would have to prepare during their summer seasons, their growing seasons, and grow enough food to last them until the next year. So when grocery stores came, it's kind of like people became disconnected from that. And again, it's also bringing in that kind of microwave lifestyle where it's so easy to go and get it and you forget the labor, you forget the work and the connection to your food and knowing your food. And I believe that makes you healthier is knowing there's a connection. That's why I recommend farmers markets and know the farmers, talk to the people. If you can't grow things, well, go and meet the people who do and then establish a relationship because again, it's all connected and would bring such reward to both the farmer and the individual, to have that relationship and to rely on each other. So, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing. A lot of people ask me on my public Telegram channel, they're like, what can I do if I live in kind of like a place like you live in? Like, what can I do? And I'm like, well, talk to your neighbors and ask about a community garden. Find an area where you guys can, have it set up where you can grow. And I mean, it's not like you would have to can or freeze anything, but you would at least have a season of your own, yield, your own harvest. And then I've had some people even say, well, I wanted a small little chicken coop. I'm like, again, talk to your community, where you live and collaborate and network and see if there's a way to bring that into where you live. If it's something you can't do on your own, well, as a community, then you can do it together. And again, that's support. Someone's always there to take care of it. I mean, even in our town, and we live in the country, there is a community garden in town. And we have a friend that goes there and plants there and has a section that's her own, and then they all share the harvest. So there's ways to do it. It's just doing it, I guess, like it doesn't have to be acres and greenhouses. There's ways to get that. And then again, if you really can't, then just look, there's farmers markets everywhere. Supporting them is important because these are the people that are trying to keep that tradition, the way our ancestors have grown food alive. The way mass production is being done, it's not healthy. It's not done with the same love and care as a farmer actually puts into that food. And when you're eating it, are you getting the best nutrients? And that's really what's the most important because what are we putting into our body? That's the fuel that gets us going, right? And if you're just eating to satisfy hunger, you're not eating to nourish the body. And the body knows. Yeah, exactly. It's not satisfying. Yep, yep, exactly. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, it was a learning experience for me because so when I first realized with Ray, like this was what we were going to do, and I remember when we were cleaning up the area where our greenhouses are, and it was probably, early winter, and I had my snow pants and a thick flannel on and a winter hat, and he's like, "Well, I've got all this wood, so I need help stacking it." So I'm out there and I'm stacking wood, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I have a doctorate and I'm stacking wood. Like, shouldn't I be on a meeting? Shouldn't I be at a pharmacy? Like, I just was really pondering, like, am I making the best decision? Like, what am I doing here? And as I was stacking the wood, I stood up and I could see the sky. It was getting close to sunset, which was early because it was, early winter. So it could have been 4:30, 5 o'clock or so. And I remember the sky had like this pinkish hue and it was purple. And then there was a crescent moon. And I just stopped and looked and I thought, I never could see this from my office. I mean, I could see it through the blinds a little bit. Um, I could never see it from a pharmacy. And I just connected with like the world around me and I thought this is pretty cool. Like to actually be outside and connecting with nature and doing this. And so that was like my aha moment, like I can do this. And then I had to, I helped, I'm Ray's helper. I'm not the one that does the building. And even some I know. Yeah. He's the builder. Yeah, Ray the builder. Yes. He's the builder and he puts all the stuff together. But um I was the one that was doing all the canning and freezing and I was panicking at first because I've never done it and I was a bit free and I made mistakes. There were some things I canned a bunch of green beans and a bunch of carrots, and I did not know to put pickling salt in or lemon juice to make it acidic so it seals. I had no idea. I didn't boil it long enough, and they all went bad. So I decided to freeze after that. I'm like, okay, vacuum seal, and in the freezer you go, and they tasted great, so I'm gonna stick with that. But that's, I think that's what's key is that not to, panic and to try it. There's trial and error and just have fun with it because it's a whole you're bringing back something that's like a lost art really and that knowledge, I mean, just in 2 generations, I mean, 2 generations ago, they were farming, they were canning, they were preserving, right? And now it no one's really doing that. I do see though, I will say, even where I live, there are more like homesteads, small farms popping up where people are getting chickens, some have goats, they have bigger gardens, they have raised beds. I mean, I see people really doing that more and more and more. I think people are feeling the pressure. Yeah. And they're like, you know what, let's just do it ourselves. So I do see that happening, which is pretty cool to see that happening. But yeah, where our production's a lot bigger. And our hope is to someday, have a farm stand or even go to farmers markets and be there to connect with the community and share our produce or even plants if people want to buy our plants. Because I don't know if you saw, but this was our first year we grew extra seedlings. And so I supplied my mom and Dennis with their whole garden. So we went down and Ray tilled it and planted everything there. We have a few more things to bring them when they're a little bit bigger, but we actually intended to plant more so we could share. So someday it will be a business, but right now it's just for fun. Mhm, mhm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited because we'll definitely take a road trip and help you guys get set up and show you things and teach you things because it's a connection, like you say. I mean, it's so great to have a connection to your food. I mean, I never would have thought it'd be this rewarding. We did it with a different mindset than what's come out of it. We're like, yep, let's do this because we don't know what's going to happen. And if everything tanks and say the truckers don't get in with food and all this stuff, like all these thoughts were through our head. And then all of a sudden it's turned into a passion and a new lifestyle. And I love it. I keep teasing Ray. I'm like, you got to make me a sign that says, welcome to our pharmacy. I want to, because it's so cool of my background, and to actually realize that I can take that, and shift it into what food can do for you and understanding that connection and drawing into that. So yeah, it's pretty neat. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that is definitely a thing that we enjoy because it's nice to have it there. And I mean, right now we have a lot of lettuce and nothing else, so I have to buy the other things to make a salad because I have lettuce like everywhere. And you know what's even crazy? Like we have like rogue lettuce growing, like I don't know how, where, or gross. Like we have spots where there's just lettuce that's just growing and we didn't plant it there. We have radishes that just popped up out of nowhere. We didn't plant them there. And even tomatoes. And then I have a bunch of mystery squashes. They just were growing somewhere. I don't know what they are. They could be cucumbers, they could be zucchini, they could be yellow squash, they could be butternut. I don't know yet, but we've moved them and just I said, well, I'm not gonna kill them. So things just start growing. Yeah, it is. It's kind of neat because we joke around. We're like Ray and Jen and the mystery farm, like because we have all these plants that just start growing out of nowhere. I don't know if it's just from the composter because we do compost and seeds could get in there, but it is crazy how out of nowhere things just start popping up and it's pretty cool. So yeah. Hmm. True. Hmm. Yeah, we have crazy. Yeah, we've had crazy weather. Hmm. Um, well, I kind of mastered doing pickles, like cucumbers and making pickles. Like I really, really like now I cannot eat store-bought pickles like ever again. So I've done really good with I wish I haven't made bread and butter, but I'm sure I could. But I do have dill. I do have the dill. Yeah, they raised too. I haven't done bread. I should try that one. But I have mastered, dill pickles and they're pretty tasty. I even really have mastered sauce and the sauce is like so good. We did chicken parm recently and I used our sauce and I was like, "Oh my goodness." I mean, I opened the jar, it smells so good. And then after I poured it on the chicken, I'm like licking the spoon and I would never do that with other sauce. Cold. Like I was like, it was just so good. So I really like that. I mean, I was the one that did it. Ray kind of helps me sometimes get the jars out, but I pretty much am the one doing the canning. Um, and doing that. And I think what I would love to see is us to have a farm store where we have an abundance and I can can these and have labels on them and have a little shop and people can come in and buy them and like them too. And you know, I don't know. That would be kind of the goal at some point is to have a little shop and people can come in and purchase some of our things and maybe grow from there. And I'd even like to at some point have some medicinal tinctures with the stuff that grows on the property, like to make, for example, the wild tobacco, the mullein. mullein, you make a tincture with the mullein leaves, and that helps with respiratory. So you tincture and you put the drops under your tongue, and that helps. Violets, when they come up in the early spring, you pick their petals and you let it sit in the alcohol, make a tincture that helps with inflammation. I do, I have some left, so I haven't really picked any yet, but I probably will this year. Dandelion root, dig up the roots and dry them out and season them and grind them up and make coffee or tea. And dandelion root is really, really good for liver cleanse. So very helpful. So you start to realize the stuff you have that just grows wild and naturally. And you can harvest that and use that medicinally, if needed. We also harvest chaga mushroom when we go on hikes. Usually when we hike in Vermont, because we haven't really found any in New York, but it's higher elevations. We harvest the chaga and I make tinctures out of that, and that's a very potent antioxidant. Yeah, I enjoy that's the pharmacist, the real pharmacist in me, but tapping into how to, use what's naturally medicinal to help the body and not go to a pharmaceutical. Because I'll tell you, Matt, what I saw before I knew what I was seeing, I saw a lot of people come in and they weren't getting better. And I was kind of struggling for years as a pharmacist. I'm like, we were told it's quality of life in college. Like we're giving them these meds and they're supposed to be better, but why isn't anyone better? So my inquisitive mind, I never was the going with the flow. I always had to buck the system in some way, and my mom would agree. Growing up, I was, right? So I just couldn't understand how people were not getting healthy. And then I couldn't understand how I would see people on the least amount of medications, the healthiest, and those on the most, not. I would see people my age coming in on so many medications and they looked awful. And I'm like, something's not adding up. So for me, what I realized after I started, digging, and I know you like the conspiracies, going into the Rockefellers and Carnegies and the Flexner Report of 1910 and how the Rockefellers paid the institutions, to get rid of, to back, what they call now modern medicine and to get rid of the holistic and natural approach on wellness, and it just blew my mind, and then it made sense. I'm like, well, now I know why I was seeing what I was seeing. And so I mean, I'm not anti pharmaceuticals by any mean. I just think we've become, again, just like grocery stores, right? We've just become conditioned to think I want the quick fix. I don't really want to work on what's ailing me. Just give me the Band-Aid. Well, the problem is it moves to somewhere else. If we're not fixing the root cause, it's going to show up somewhere else. And do we want to live a life unhealthy, or do we want to live our life to our fullest and in wellness? I'm choosing the wellness, I don't want to be unhealthy. So that's, realizing that I was like, this makes more sense. And then again, as I started unraveling through more and more, I realized, a lot of it does come from diet because everything that you're pushed, any ad you see on TV, Doritos, sodas, junk upon junk upon junk, and there's never any push for nutrition, and there's never any push for eating closer to the earth or even eating in the seasons, following what the seasons have and following that, what grows in those seasons to eat. Like here, in the early spring, we have wild onions, ramps that grow. And I actually met with the medicine man of a local native tribe because I was, again, inquisitive. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I have questions. And he told me, he says, back in the day, the tribe would go out and pick these and boil them in water, add a little salt and pepper, and then drink and eat the leaves and drink the soup. And that was a cleanse, a detox in early spring for the body. So it's just these, and I'm like, you know what? That sounds a heck of a lot better than, some of these other cleanses that they're pushing people. It's like, I just feel like there's a way to do things naturally that we don't have to, put something into our body that might not agree with us or that has 100 side effects, that we could possibly have something happen. Yep. Die. Some of them are even dead. I know. Yeah. Mhm. No. But they're hoping you miss that part and you see the family that looks happy flying a kite. They're always hoping that let's make this commercial look so good and they won't see the fine print. Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, it's so true. Hmm. Mm, yeah, right, right. And actually, we have turmeric root on our table right now because we're going to try planting it and growing it. Because again, the medicinal part, we've got ginger and turmeric on our table that we've got to plant outside somewhere because we're running out of space, but we've got to plant it somewhere and we want to grow that because we are looking into harvesting the root, like you say, drying it up, getting the powder, adding the powder to things for inflammation. So yeah, absolutely right. Hmm. Right, which does if they prescribe ibuprofen or otherwise they prescribe for pain relief, not even just for inflammation, but then they prescribe narcotics for people that just cannot be out of pain. And yes, inflammation is actually the number one thing that leads to every other problem. It can lead to every other problem. And a lot of times it is due to diet, to food. There's a few things. I'll just give you a little consult here, Matt, if you don't mind. So, few things you could do that will help. So the turmeric is great. The Remove the junk. Yeah, no more junk. Another thing you could do is some fasting, intermittent fasting. So that's awesome. Okay, that's great. Yeah, and I'll explain why for people that might not know that are listening. So when we eat, our body takes all the energy and brings it to our digestive tract to process and break down, metabolize, eliminate all the food. That is like anywhere from 2 to 4 hours of time that your body takes. When we eat late, closer to bedtime, and we go to bed, our body is still processing and digesting. And when we sleep is when we heal. So if you're sleeping and your body needs all the energy to digest food, guess what's happening to anything else that needs to be healed? It's not going to happen because your body needs to break the digestion becomes the key. So with fasting, your body gets to take a break from digesting and can go around and clean up other junk. And then when your body's resting and it can actually optimally heal, when you're not eating. So I usually say to people, 8 hours of eating time during the day. So pick an 8 hour window. If you can do 8 to 4, you do 9 to 5, and then 16 hours of no food. You can drink tea. You can drink even I have right here with me some lemon water. Um, you can have lemon water. You could have coffee, but it's got to be black. Things like that. So you can have drinks, but just not eat. And then in the morning, hold off on your coffee because if you put cream in your coffee, that will break. Again, breakfast is break fast. You break your fast. So you can do that too, and then hold off. on eating. So there's a lot of good that comes from fasting, and it's not talked about enough. It's not so much about weight loss. There's actually a lot of things that it helps with the body as well. Yep. Yep, actually we did because we were drinking those same creamers too. We now actually put just in our coffee alone is heavy cream. So we get straight up heavy whipping cream and we use the heavy whipping cream in our coffee and that's it. We don't put any sugar in our coffee anymore. So we just use the heavy. It takes a while to get used to it. It's like at first you're like, ew, but Ray's actually tried to put sugar back in his coffee and he's like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. So because sugar is the other thing, Matt, that brings inflammation up. So a lot of sugar, and sugar could even be like carbs. It's not just like eating ice cream, right? So sugar is anything that your body will turn into sugar. So carbs, breads, pastas, and all that stuff will turn around and the sugar causes inflammation in the body. The other thing that causes inflammation as a food is certain oils. So like the seed oils, like canola, vegetable, safflower, corn oil, all those oils are highly inflammatory and they disrupt, the flow of the body and increase inflammation. So the thing is you might be like, oh, exactly people say this, they're like, well, I don't cook with that. I'm like, do you go out to eat? They're like, oh, all the time. I'm like, well, what oils do you, they're not deep frying an avocado oil, that's for sure. Yeah, exactly. So it's important to go out and have it once in a while and not make it a habit to have fried food out because you're not getting you're getting the bad oils and especially if you are highly inflamed and you'll be reactive, right? The other thing that you're not in a good place, but you can get to the beach from where you are, is walking barefoot. So walking Grounding, yes. Grounding is so, so, so key that just half hour putting your feet, even if you just sit in a chair with your feet to the earth, decreases inflammation, helps with sleep. I mean, it's amazing. And you can get grounding mats and grounding sheets and all sorts of things for the winter time if need be. But yeah, grounding. And let me say, I've seen it. I've seen it on a blood slide. So I've actually witnessed I have a friend who is a live blood microscoper, and she came here to visit and brought her microscope and said, I'm using you to test some things on. And I was like, okay. So I went to see where she was staying, and she took my blood from my finger before I grounded and after. Totally, totally changed. Increased immune cells, increased red blood cell function, everything was improved. So that was just 30 minutes. So I recommend that. Yeah, I bet you I've seen the same one because I know what you're talking about, where the science behind yeah, the science behind it. And I don't ever speak and it's funny because I have doctorate in pharmacy, but I never speak. I usually speak real like regular because the sciencey stuff is always like I just don't have I'm not one that is lingo for it. So I always just say it and it's an exchange, the science behind is the exchange of electrons. We build up electrons. If you think about in the wintertime, you rub your feet across the floor and you touch this, you get shocked. That's, where do you think that's coming from? Because it's an energy. So it's an energy exchange with the earth, which then, helps us in so many ways. So those are some other things, and it sounds like you're right on it. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Right, right, for sure. And the time of day is going to be dependent on each person, what they want to do. Because some people, like I go to bed usually early, so I eat dinner like around 5. I make dinner and have it done. I eat and I leave it for Ray. And then when he comes in, he could eat at like 7 or so, or maybe even later sometimes, but he's up a lot later than I am. But yeah, everybody is different for their time frame whenever they want to say, this is the time I want to stop eating. So there's no real like, this has to be at this time. That doesn't have to be. The goal of intermittent fasting is that 8 hour window where you eat and the 16 hours where you don't. And I like to say it is key to just because I had some people say, well, I eat right up until 9 p.m. I'm like, what time do you go to bed? 10? I'm like, well, you yeah, and you kind of want to make sure you're not going to bed with food because your body, I mean, and the amount of organs, people just think it's just your stomach and your intestines, but you got your gallbladder, you've got your pancreas, you've got your it's the whole exactly. It's that whole middle section of the body is all being used. And I mean, if you think about when you eat, I mean, if you're not eating like a Thanksgiving meal, you don't feel tired. But when you eat like Thanksgiving, because you're eating so much, you feel sluggish because all the energy is going to digesting. So it's the same happening even on a smaller level. You're just not feeling the effects of it, but your body is taking that energy to digest. And so that's why it's really important to hold off for a few hours before you go to bed, and to cut off. Now, it doesn't mean, you're out with friends and you're gonna and eat late that night. That's fine, right? It's just the that is true too, yes. But the days that you are intermittent fasting, you just stick with it. The thing that's key is that when you realize what health really is and it's a lifestyle change, it's not supposed to become a burden, right? It's not supposed to like you're dreading it. Oh, if I miss this, because I had this one guy I was helping, and he was like, I'm gonna be going to some Christmas parties, and there's probably gonna be cake and cookies. And don't avoid it. I'm like, just know this is your time. Don't go to parties. You don't need to go. I said, just know that you're gonna go to the parties, eat a little bit, don't overindulge, just enjoy yourself, try a little bit of stuff, and then once the parties are over, get back on track. And he reached out to me afterwards. He goes, that was so good because he was stressing, which again, stress then causes other issues in the body, right? So everything's connected. So if we stress about oh my gosh, I'm going out with friends and I do intermittent fasting, your body's going to feel that stress and it's going to present itself in another way. And we don't want to, our goal is that balance, right? Our goal is to be in balance and alignment. And that's really important. And this is where I tell people too, the placebo effect, if it's real for medicine, that you could take a fake pill and receive the benefits, what does that tell you about how powerful our mind is in the healing process? So we don't want to give our mind stress and anxiety and worry because then that's going to feed into our body. It's going to cause blood pressure to rise. It's going to cause adrenals to go into quick pushing out the cortisol and adrenaline and all these things that then throw off all the other hormones and everything gets out of balance. And then the body is trying to the body thinks when we're in that moment, the body thinks it's being chased by like a bear, right? But we're not being chased. We're just releasing the chemicals as if we were. And then the body shuts down everything else because it's in survival mode. So it shuts things down it needs. So that's why I tell people, listen, try to be calm and find whatever method it is to get you back into that calm state, whatever that is. If you have a day of like, oh my gosh, I had a really bad day. Okay, let's breathe through it. Let's see what we can, do, because if we stay there, it's only going to lead to other problems. So, yeah. Yep. Yep. Right. Mhm. Yep. Yes. And if you can't think of what to meditate on, count your blessings. Start having gratitude. Gratitude will completely, no matter what you do, you could find things to be grateful for. And you just start naming them. I am grateful for, and you start going through them. And next thing you know, that stress level is gone. It's like it's reduced because you start to have a positive mindset. Yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Well, and it definitely started. I have a friend and colleague, and he wrote a paper like in college about how, and he was explaining this to me, and it totally made sense because it matched what I saw myself in practice. And he's a pharmacist and a pharmacy owner as well. He does a specialty pharmacy, though. He's not tied in like the other ones. Like he does specialty stuff. So him and I were talking, and it made sense. So when someone is, in high school and they're an athlete, and they get an injury, they go to the doctors and they get put on high dose ibuprofen, which then causes stomach issues. And they go back in their 20s to the doctors, and the doctor says, oh, here's, Nexium or Protonix for your acid reflux, because they don't make the connection that it was due to the long use of ibuprofen for the injury. Now somebody's on that medication. That depletes your minerals and nutrients in the body, which causes other things. It could be anything from blood pressure to heart. You go to the doctor, you got another problem. And what do? They prescribe another pill. So now and then by the time you reach 50, you're on, 10 to 15 medications because you keep going back. And that's the only training that is done, is to teach and train. Well, you've got this symptom, here's this pill. You've got this symptom, here's this pill. You must have this. And what's not looked at is the overall health. So even with like type 2 diabetes, it's a metabolic disease. It's metabolic. So you can go back through diet, through changes. And one of the things that we haven't even talked on yet is like the idea of salt. Like we are told to avoid salt. Like we are told like, oh my gosh, don't have any salt. Well, and guess what happens? Everybody has blood pressure problems and kidney problems and all these other problems. And salt is if you sweat, what does it taste like? Salt, right? So our body is not completely water. It's a salt-based water. And so what we do too is we drink a lot of water and we deplete the body of the electrolytes it needs. So for years I drank a lot of water and I found out that I had very low cell vitality. Well, why was that? I don't use table salt. I didn't and I hardly use salt because again, I was taught and trained it's bad. So I wasn't using salt. And my cells were on low vitality. I had very low energy, and it was because I didn't have the salt. So it was going to lead to problems down the road, kidney problems, blood pressure problems, all sorts of things because I didn't have enough salt in my body. So I now put Celtic sea salt in my water, especially the days I'm outside working and I'm sweating more because I know my body. That's not how you get your salt. Exactly. That is not how you get your salt. Yeah, but think about too, when you are craving salt, what do you go to? The bag of potato chips. Ray just said that to me today. He says, remember when we used to crave salt, we would eat chips. You want something salty. Well, but you're craving what you're craving is right, but what you're putting in your body is wrong. So when you drink, and you notice too, when you drink water with the Celtic sea salt, and I put lemon, sometimes I even put a little maple syrup in it for sweetener. So it's a great drink. But then, I'm not having to run to the bathroom as much because when I drink straight water, it just goes right through me. But now when I'm drinking it with minerals and salts in it, the body's absorbing a lot of it. So I'm not having to run to the bathroom as much. So that's another thing. Like everything can be reversed. And the problem is that the system puts people right on medications without asking about, diet, lifestyle, and even, down to like what we're thinking and what we're feeling and what, is there something that's going on? Because everything starts somewhere and it's on going back and unraveling it and, kind of bringing it into focus. So that's what their agenda's been. And doctors don't even realize it. They just keep writing the next prescription. And like I said, by the time someone's 50, I mean, I remember when I was last practicing pharmacy and I worked at an independent and I was in long-term care and I worked retail. I did both. But when I was in long-term care, we had to do these, they were called MTMs, medication therapy management, and the insurance company sends them. So this will just show you how everything's tied together, right? So the insurance company would send us a document saying, Mrs. Jones, we noticed that she is diabetic and she's not on a medication to prevent high cholesterol. So I'm like, I grab them. I'm like, I gotta look at this because I don't. First of all, why is the insurance company getting involved when the doctor's the one delivering the care? That's the first question, right? So That's right. That is like, well, the doctor would know. So I call the doctor. I'd be like, hey, so here's what's going on. And the doctor would say, nope, Mrs. Jones' cholesterol is perfect. She does not need to be on any preventative meds. What are we really preventing at this point if everything is good? So I was happy with that. Other times I'd get the reports and I look through the medication list. And some of these people are like 85 years old and they're on a cholesterol med at like the highest dose. They're on an acid reflux med at the highest dose. So usually I never saw the patient, but I would see the daughter or the son. So at this place, we had a little side room. So I'd be like, come here, come here. So I take them in the little side room so nobody could hear me because I was like I was always like the big pharma pharmacist. I'm like, people shouldn't be use what's necessary. You don't need to over medicate, right? So I would take the patient's daughter or son into the room and say, hey, I'm looking through your mom's stuff. The insurance company's reaching out. They want to switch your mom from this to this or your dad from this to this. And I got some questions. And people be like, I was wondering the same exact thing. Every time I go to the doctor, I say, can we take her off some of these meds? Because my mom's now 85. She's like 105 pounds and she eats like a bird. And the doctor's like, well, they're all working because everything seems to be good. Well, how do we know it's medication and how do we know it's not the way they're living, right? So it just seems like people were always, on just too many things, on high doses. And there were even times I've had some where the husband called me. He says, my wife, they just did a whole change up of her meds. And she is now very fatigued. She's not getting out of bed. And when she does get out of bed, she falls every time. So I started looking through her chart and I'm like, I can't believe they're giving this lady all these meds. So I called the office and talked to the nurse, and the nurse talked to the doctor, and the doctor came back to me and says, hey, good catch. I can't believe we prescribed these. I was just like, these are the things that are happening, out there. And most of your pharmacists they just follow along. I was rare. There are others like me, and I have met many, many, many through the last few years. And I'm very, very grateful and thankful to know so many great pharmacists because I thought I'm like, am I the only one? Because exactly. So I'm glad I'm not the only one. And knowing that, we are not anti-pharmaceuticals. We just know there's a time and a place. And after a while of overuse, it can wreak havoc on the body. And the goal is to, the goal is to start eliminating, and I cannot deprescribe, but doctors can, but I can help a patient establish a plan, and say, okay, looking at your med list, let's talk to the doctor, have you talk to the doctor, and here's what you can bring to them. And I've had some people that have taken that information to their doctor and the doctors agreed, and the patient was very happy because they wanted to come off the meds. So in time, with nutritional changes, with lifestyle modifications, medications can be removed and people can be either on none or one or two. So, yep. Yes. Yeah, because your body's worked all this time now with the medication. And a lot of times, too, this is the other thing. And a lot of times, people that are like big pharma advocates don't like to hear this one, but a lot of times the body starts to work with it because it has no choice. You're giving it to your body. So the body's amazing because the body actually always leans and goes in the direction to heal itself. The body's always, okay, for example, you get a paper cut, it heals on its own, right? Do you do anything to assist it? You just look at it, and after a while, it goes away, right? So internally, it's the same thing happening. We have been taught that if there's a problem on the inside, it's got to be fixed. Well, sometimes the problem is the body healing, just like the paper cut's healing, right? And when the paper cut's healing, it's a little tender, it's a little swollen, and that's happening inside our body, and that's our body just healing. And unfortunately, we've been taught that, oh my gosh, it's something wrong, and it's not. So that's the same thing. But yes, coming off the meds slowly and one at a time. I've had people, they're like, I want off all these meds. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You can't get off all of them. We're going to one and we're going to work through it, because sometimes as well, you start to come off and the body's like a little like, oh, I can't do this. You got to go back up again. Sometimes it's back up and down before you completely stop the medication. But it can be done. It has been done. And there's definitely, and to say what holistically could be used, the first thing is always going to be looking at the diet. What are we choosing to eat? When are we eating? Like we talked about intermittent fasting. And look at lifestyle things like seed oils. Do you get outside? Do you get natural sunlight? Do you wear sunglasses? That's even a big thing. Sunglasses. Yeah. Sunglasses, another, here's, this will be a good one for you to research. I know you like to dig into some of these things. Mhm. And actually, I'm not wearing because I'm on this, but I usually wear blue light blocking glasses when I'm on any electronic stuff, because the blue light can affect your melatonin production and other hormones in your body, because the blue light from electronics is not good. But yes, sunglasses. So when you go out during the day and you wear sunglasses, your body doesn't know what time of day it is. So a lot of times too, and everything that the time of day with the sunlight, there's things that happen within the body. Everything works together, right? So when you put the sunglasses on, your body's not able to know what time of day it is, and there's different lights that come off of the sun at different times of day. In the morning and sunset, our red light is the highest, but all during the day, there's different lights that your body needs to start turning things on, turning things off. When the sunglasses, your body thinks it's nighttime. So your body doesn't know, right? And that can lead to other things that can go wrong because your body's not knowing what time of day it is. So I wear sunglasses once in a while, but not like I used to. I try very hard to go outside. Even Ray, who's like sensitive to the light, he's yeah, he takes him a while. There are days where he's like, can't do it, gotta wear the shades. But for the most part, he tries very hard not to wear sunglasses because he now knows that that's happened. And here's the other thing: when you wear sunglasses and you sit outside in the sun, you're more apt to burn because the eyes are telling the skin produce more melanin because there's sun out. So when you wear sunglasses, the body doesn't know. Yep, the body doesn't know that the sun's out that bright and your body's not producing melanin and you're at higher risk for burning. All Everything's connected when you really break it down. It's so fascinating. Yeah, try it and see. And again, everybody is different. So yeah, your skin type probably would react where you'd get red, but you probably would build up melanin after a while because you're not wearing the shades and you're allowing your body to naturally produce the melanin and see what happens. Yeah. I found that fascinating when I saw it. I was like, wow, that is pretty neat. And it kind of makes sense because yep, because everything's connected. But yeah, the holistic approach would be looking into all of that stuff, sleep, and even EMFs. We now know that those frequencies do affect our health. So are we sleeping with our cell phones right next to us at night? There's all sorts of things that can affect health, and it's really going through layer by layer by layer. And here's the other thing, before somebody can just, and I mean, there are some meds that they can start coming off of, but let's just say they're not on any of those. The goal is to get the body in balance and prepared and ready for the medications to start to come off, because you just start coming off medications but the body's not ready. The body hasn't changed the diet. The body doesn't have the proper sleep. The body's not fasting. The body's not, yeah, then exactly. But then it causes more problems. And then people then say, oh, I'm just going to stay on the meds. Well, there's things we have to prepare for. So this way we can start to come off the medications. And then eventually everything at the end, it's like, hooray, we did it, but it takes some time, but it can be done, so yes. Absolutely. Yeah, and disciplining yourself to that lifestyle change too. Like we've done it. We don't eat like at all like we used to, and as much. Like I don't even make like Danielle and I were talking one day recently, and she's like, I said, yeah, and Ray's like, Jen's making breakfast. She's like, it's 12:30. Well, like our breakfast time, we don't eat anything until then, maybe a banana, especially this year because we get up and we're up at the greenhouses, we're watering. If it's like hot like it has been, we're taking care of everything. And, it's like we're busy, and so then we're like, oh, we're hungry. So I go back down to the house and we have eggs, we have chicken. So I make eggs. And then, of course, it sounds like breakfast, not lunch, because it's eggs. But we don't eat like as much. And then we'll eat that. And then, excuse me, and then we won't eat again until maybe dinner time, you know? And maybe I'll snack on some like today I did peas are growing in the garden, so I was snacking on some peas, but for the most part, it's really when you start to realize that you don't need to eat as much as you think you do, your body does respond to that too. I know I met a really neat guy, a surgeon from the UK. I met him in June of 2023, and he only eats one meal a day. Only one meal. Him and his wife started this journey to be healthy and fit. And yeah, and when I met him, he's like, I'm starving, I'm starving. I'm like, why are you starving? He's like, well, I flew here from the UK and I'm all off on my one meal a day thing. And he's like, I'm just waiting to go to dinner tonight. And I asked him, I said, well, what is it you eat? He goes, whatever the hell I want. And he did. He ordered like a huge steak. He ordered sweet potato fries. I mean, he had like this whole big, like, I was like, oh, okay. But he only eats one meal a day. And then he makes a big meal and then he just fasts again. Now I've tried to do that. It's really hard, but yeah, I can't do one meal a day. Hmm. Yeah. Two, I could do two, but not one. Yeah. Yep. 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 Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, the intermittent is really good. There is, and I will send you this link so that you can share it with people, but there is a kit. I've I have one. I haven't done it yet, but it's a 5-day fast. And in this kit comes everything that you can eat for those 5 days that you don't break your fast. They've designed it so that you never go above that threshold, that fasting threshold. So you get little packets of soups, little teas, these little like cereal bars that you have for breakfast. And I researched it to make sure it wasn't like that there were things in there that were bad for you. And my friend I mentioned earlier, the pharmacist that has a pharmacy, he was a big advocate of it. And so I looked into it and I liked it. And I said, you know what, I really want to do this because here's the cool thing. When you do this, it reduces your biological age by 2 years to do a 5-day. Yeah, it cleanses the body in such a way. And I've talked to a lot of people who have done this and they feel fantastic after doing this 5-day fasting kit. So I'll send you a link because I can get your listeners can get a discount by using this link. So I'll send you a link. It's like 20% off. Yeah. So this way they can get the discount. But yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the only reason I'm not doing it right now is because I'm so busy that I think I need to do this like when I'm not out sweating and getting hungry because I'm out working in the yard. So but I have it and I'm really looking forward to doing it because I want to feel, because I do feel good. I've done a 24-hour fast and you do feel like lighter. You feel, it's amazing because you would think I'd be so famished that I'd have no energy. But after the fast is over, you kind of, and you eat a meal, you actually feel good. Like your body's processing and working because fasting, my visualization of it is like when you're fasting, it's like the Pac-Man. Remember Pac-Man used to go around and eat? Yeah, that's what I see is like happening inside my body, like the Pac-Man going around and eating up all the junk, like all the sick cells and all the aging cells and all that stuff. Miss Pac-Man. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so true. It does. And I'm not sensitive to it at all, but Ray is. So we actually turn our Wi-Fi off at night when we're sleeping. And if it's not off at night, he'll wake up in the morning and say, "We didn't turn it off last night." He'll feel it right away. He always can sense things like that. And when we're driving down the road, he will tell me before we see a cell tower, there's a cell tower coming. He can feel it. Like he is really really sensitive to stuff. And that's the other thing too. People are buying these like smart houses where everything is like Bluetooth and it's all EMF. And then they're having health issues and they're not sure where it's coming from. Well, your body isn't meant to be bombarded with all that. That's heavy for the body and the body can't handle it at times. And some, like I said, some, like you said, some are different than others. And after a while, it can cause problems. And doctors aren't thinking, you go to a regular doctor, they're not thinking to look or ask the questions like, do you have appliances near your bed? Do you have, a cell phone? Where's your, Wi-Fi outlet? Do you turn your Wi-Fi off at night? All these things, and not asking these questions to people that could help. And it does take something so little as removing it or turning it off, and then everything. And the best thing about with the EMF, like you with that guy that you experienced, the minute it's turned off, done, done. Like there's no like delay, there's no like waiting for, it's just as soon as it happens, the body responds. Yeah. And I think a lot of times it's because the body is giving warnings. Like I can't handle this, I can't handle this. And that's why these reactions happen, because it's the body's trying to communicate. That's the other thing we've lost touch with is when our body's telling us something, we need to connect and know that we don't need to outsource our, autonomy to to somebody who doesn't know us, like for me, like that's why when you read the bio, I so want people to be empowered and encouraged and connected to who they are. Like, I don't ever want to say, I have the answers and I'm going to tell you how to do it, because that's not true. And everybody's journey, their health journey or their journey to wellness is different and unique for each individual. And I don't ever want to tell somebody I know what's best for them because they do. I like to give people options. I say it like this, like a construction worker has a toolbox with all the tools they need for the job. People have a health toolkit with all the different tools they need. So my goal is to provide them with the hammer and the screwdriver, and whatever else they need in the wrench. And then they get to decide which tool they want to use because that's how it should be. And unfortunately, the way it's done today is there's been a big ego in the medical world where the doctor knows everything, and unfortunately the patient's the one that suffers. It's the patient because they and then they're believing in their doctor, or they train we've been trained through the years that doctor knows best, and unfortunately the patient, not all the time, no. And they should be a source. And doctor actually translated means teacher. So really the goal should be to educate people on how to figure it out and just be a guide. I want to just be a guide. I do not ever want someone to say, "Well, Dr. Jen said to do this." That is not how I want to do it. I want to give information and people find what fits them, because not everyone's journey is the same. Yeah. Mhm. Right. Absolutely. Yep. You've got the same mindset. Yep. We don't have all the answers. And if we went out saying we did, well, we're liars. And my integrity and my character of who I am, and I remain the same as a pharmacist when I was actually practicing pharmacy. I always wanted to help people. My goal was never to tell people or dictate their care. I always wanted to be a voice for them. Like, that's like when you read the bio, like I started as a tech and I saw these pharmacists that were just, I'm like, man, they're just not connected to the people. And which is why I go by the people's pharmacist, because I've always enjoyed connecting to the people. My goal has always been the people, the heart of the community. And so that was what it was. And now I just hope I can take, this next chapter I'm on, and share that with people too. And like encouraging, like you guys, when you move to Pennsylvania, like coming and sharing, and then we can, harvest and have a great meal, like I think that'd be fun. I think it's just a whole new way of life. And I believe it was needed to reach that turning point, where people are like, wait a second, like if something happens, I don't have the skills to do this. Like I said, yep. And I don't know if you remember, but when every time we'd come and visit, and Ray would always be drawn to Uncle Emilio's garden all the time. All the time. And he would always tell me how he's like, "Oh, I love it. I want to be like that." And oh, now we are. And yeah, it is. It's very inspiring, and there's something that connects you to that. And it was funny because when we were first starting out, our greenhouses are on this side of the property, so I'm pointing over that way. But when we first started out doing this, Ray's like, "Why didn't we do this sooner?" And I'm like, "We didn't have the land." So that was one of the reasons. And you've been here, so you know. But we a few years ago acquired the property that's on the other side here. The woman that was there back, and it went for auction. And so we're like, we're getting it. We're not leave. We're not, yeah. So because we always wanted to have. They do. And now it's our greenhouse. That's where all our greenhouses are. So it's kind of nice to have, yeah, that worked out for us to have that because where we are, I mean, we got the chicken coop on this side, but yeah, so which it's nice. So yeah, yeah, that's what we're It's actually not, I mean, really, it's not as bad at all. I mean, it sounds worse, I think, than it is. So go up there in the morning and I clean their coop out. I don't allow their coop to stay, I clean them because I don't want them to stay in their stuff. Some places just leave it, but I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. So I go up there in the morning, clean them out, get them, out for the day. We have everything is closed in because of predators, and I love these girls, so I don't want anything to happen to them. So we close them in. They have a run, and they also have what's called a chicken tractor, so that it's out on the grass, and then we move it to new spots that they can go and eat at. So we'll take them out once I know they're done laying because they have a laying schedule. And then I go up and let them out. I let them free range for a while where I sit with them. I'll sit there in my beach chair, no less. I just bring it up there and sit and they walk around and eat and peck and scratch and then I get them in their chicken tractor for the day. But it's not as much, it's not that much work really. It's fun work because they do love you. I mean, it's amazing. They'll talk to me when they hear me come up there in the morning, and I'm like, "Good morning." And I hear them in there before I even open the door. Bah, 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 bah. They start talking to me. So yeah, it's cool. You guys would like it. You guys would, because you guys like animals, so you guys would really like it. Hmm. You still get used to it. Still think they're cute, I'm sure. Especially if you get them as like little babies. I mean, I can't believe how big ours are, but they like sat right. I had two in my hand like this, and now one is like too big now. Like it's amazing to see how they grow. But if they're not, yeah, it's not bad at all. It's not, no. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you a story so that it can give perspective, I guess, to back up your opinion. So when I was practicing pharmacy and I was at CVS or I was at a grocery chain, the insurance, there was never really issues as much with insurance. There was like things would go through pretty easy and the reimbursement was pretty high. You know, these companies, because that's how the pharmacies would get paid is they you would submit the claim and then the insurance company would pay back plus they'd cover it and pay some and then the copay would cover some of it from the patient. When I started working for independent pharmacies, I started noticing that the reimbursements were way less. There were times when it would be you get 3 pennies as a reimbursement. And an independent pharmacy cannot stay in business on 3 pennies, right? Other times we would submit a claim, us, you know, as me, the techs and the pharmacist, whoever was working, and then the message would come back negative $150. I'm like, negative? So we are then paying the insurance company to process that claim for the patient. So I would call the doctor and be like, hey, so you wrote this prescription for this patient and the insurance company's not reimbursing us. Again, independent pharmacy versus a CVS. And they would say to me, well, we want the patient on this, so they're going to have to go get it somewhere else. So not only do we lose the patient for all the meds, right? Now we've lost them. We can't do anything, and the doctor wants them to get it at the other pharmacy. So how do these independents keep going, right? Because the insurance company is controlling it. So in the insurance is a business and they are obviously they're hand in hand with the pharmaceutical company because the insurance company is sending the medication therapy management information to the pharmacy. Now, here's the other thing. If a pharmacist gets the doctor to change a medication, they what we would are supposed to do, because I didn't follow the rules. So what you're supposed to do is fax that sheet to the doctor's office and get the doctor to sign off on it, and then you can go in and do a new prescription for a patient. And the patient would come in. Most patients, they just see, they're just like, I don't care, whatever, new medication, okay, I'll take it. Some people will be like, wait a minute, what is this? Why did my doctor write this? I didn't go to my doctor. Now, I would hear pharmacists be like, well, it came up in your profile and we got a notice that it might have been something you could use. And so we reached out to your doctor. Yeah, because the insurance company wanted the patient on that medication because it's a profit for them. So it's not about, you know, it's not looking at, it is looking at people like they're nothing. And that is absolutely wrong to do. That's what I saw in my career. And it was, you know, for me, the reason I do not go back to dispensing and working, I mean, I don't have like a nice specialty around me that I can work in. Like my friend that owns one, he's in Vegas. He's actually wanted to hire me, but he's in Vegas. He's like, fly out here for a week and work for me and then go back home. I'm like, yeah, not happening. But because he's a good guy and he knows I'm a good pharmacist. But I can't go back because what I saw, I just in my heart of hearts, how can I walk into a pharmacy, dispense these meds? How do I keep my job and keep my mouth shut? Because that's not me. I'm always going to stand up for the people. I'm always going to fight for what's right. And I do not want somebody, you know, being taken advantage of. And I saw many times, here's the other thing I saw to show you how insurance works. So we would have people on state insurance and they get everything pretty much covered. And even if they get a copay, they don't have to pay that copay. It could be $1, it could be $3. They don't have to pay it because they're on state insurance. So, but then I'd watch this little old couple come in and they needed something and they're pinching pennies out of their wallet. They're counting everything they have just to pay for their copay. And that broke my heart because here are people that worked their entire lives really hard and they couldn't get something they needed, like you say, life-saving, possibly. And then you got people that are just getting boatloads of medication because it's free, you know, and so they're taking advantage of the system and the system doesn't care because it's all about making money. It's not about, we really live in a sick care system, not a healthcare system. Not about benefiting the individual or the patient or the people. It's about lining their pockets. And it does go right down to the politicians. It goes right down to They do. It's so true. Oh my gosh. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then that leads into the insurance because then they can put the price at a higher price and then the insurance doesn't want to pay it. And then it leads to people not getting what they need if they need something. So yeah, the prices have always been cheaper elsewhere. Really, Americans are the target. I mean, we are the land of the free and home of the brave. And a lot of these other countries are quite, I mean, I'm not saying the people there are envious, but they're envious, and we get hit the most because we're the, I don't know if we're the only country or one of the only countries left that still has the Second Amendment. So we are targeted in other ways because we still have that ability to bear arms. And so we are targeted. That's just how it's always been, that we become, has nothing to do with money. A lot of times you hear that, but these other countries are fairly wealthy and they're not charging their people, huge money for this, but we become the target. Yeah, Americans do for sure. We're the most propagandized. There's a lot that goes on with the American people, and sadly, a lot of people don't even realize that. Yeah. Mhm. No, just beginning. Mhm. Yeah. Well, I'll share this is that one thing that I've always loved doing was going camping because I just loved being out in nature. I loved taking care of our little camper and preparing meals and, the whole. Oh yeah, I remember. I know. Yeah, that we'll bring that one up next time. That's a good story. Yeah. But I always liked that, and now I thought I was going to live a dream where Ray and I were traveling and camping, but now every day at my own home is a camping adventure because it's really that kind of lifestyle where I am preparing meals. And really what hit me was home and family, was that and it's okay, if women want to be out there in the workforce, but I felt a pull to back to what I was created for, and it was to be home and working alongside my husband, spending every day with him. And not many people can say that, to be the age they're at, to be able to, be home with him and Sammy, our little dog. And, so it's really I have to remind myself a lot because sometimes I look at the things I'm lacking or the stress of leaving a, lucrative career behind, and changing my life around for that. But then I have to count again the gratitude, count my blessings, and I am very blessed and very grateful to have this life. And it's fun. And I sometimes pinch myself because I'm like, how in the world? I never would have imagined this at all. When I stepped off that stage in 2006 with my degree, I saw a whole different future. And now I'm loving where I'm at. So, and it's different than what I thought, but it's really good. So, in that, my advice and guidance is to people, don't let the detours, make you think it's all over, because sometimes they lead you to a pretty cool destination that you never even imagined or dreamed of. So, absolutely. I hope so. Yeah, for sure. Sure. Oh, I did, definitely. And I'll come back and keep update. So, yep. Okay, sounds good.